Thank you very much. Bill couldn't make it today, so he sent me in his place. I'm Francoise Picard. You
Hello,
probably
Francoise.
you probably know my great grandson Jean Luc.
Oh, bonjour. Comment
Yes,
ça va?
bonjour, ça va, everybody out there. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful. Sorry, that was a wonderful introduction. I wrote that myself, actually. I
Yeah,
didn't want to go too over the top with it. You
that
understand?
was great.
No.
You are a man of many talents.
Thank you very much. Well, I guess I'm ready to start. Thank you
Okay,
for that note.
wonderful.
This is wonderful, and you expect me to follow Vox. That's like that's really weird. First, a little disclaimer: I'm having a lot of. I probably shouldn't even reference it, but I'm having some dental work done, so please excuse me if I talk a little bit funny. The moral of the story is snowboarding and psychedelics don't always mix. I'll just leave it right there. Interesting that you mentioned the golden lion, and I think it was you that mentioned the connection with Lyra. Well, for as far as I'm concerned, that references the Lyran Sirian Anuhazi, cat-like, lion-like beings that reside in what we call the third and fourth harmonic, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is rendered by my wonderful friend April Dick. This is I had this T-shirt made a while back. This is a very, very close approximation, actually the closest pretty much I've ever seen of these Lyran Sirian Anuhazi right here. Isn't that beautiful? One of our elder races. Okay, so that was amazing. I mean, to follow Vox, that was just all I can say is, and Bridget, of course, Bridget Renee Holiday. What? It's just my mind is blown. I'm in a highly altered state, so strap yourselves in tighter than usual because I'm ready to go. Okay. So thank you again. Here we go. It was interesting, Victor mentioning the Ubuntu. I have a little story here from a book by a wonderful friend of mine, The End of Scarcity. Can you see that? Whoops. Can you take my background off? I know I didn't put this background on. This background was not my idea. Let's see. Hold on just 1 second. Virtual background. None. There we go. The End of Scarcity. Kristen Ragusin. In this book, she tells a story about the Ubuntu. So it's very, very interesting that Victor mentioned the Ubuntu. There's Kristen tells a story in this wonderful book, The End of Scarcity, The Dawn of a New Abundant World. There's a beautiful story of an anthropologist who came to live with them in Africa, the Ubuntu, to understand their ways. Despite months of research and effort, he learned little until the last day. He proposed that they play a game where he put a stash of candy in a basket under a tree and told them to all stand behind a line and race to it, that the first one to get there would have the spoils all to themselves. What happened? He shouted, "Go," and they unexpectedly held each other's hands and ran toward the basket together. Then they shared the candy with each other. So I bet the anthropologist did not expect that. No, he didn't, I affirmed. He asked them then why they ran together instead of trying to win the candy for themselves. And the girl answered, quote, "How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad?" How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? In Ubuntu, as Victor said, I am because we are. Isn't that beautiful? So get ready. Here we go. Throughout human evolution, throughout the evolution of the human race, our evolution, there's a plethora of interdimensional races, and they brought teachings to Earth in order to influence one way or the other and direct the course of Earth human evolution. Now we're going to start with three of the primary interdimensional races involved with pre-ancient human culture. And these three are the Elohai Emerald Order. We'll get into this a little bit more. The Braharama Amethyst Order, and the Seraphi Gold Order. These are called Brennau collectives. Brennau, remember that word Brennau, from what we term densities 4 and 5. Densities 4 being harmonic universe 4, being dimensions 10, 11, and 12. Consciousness manifests itself as liquid light. This is hydroplasmic liquid light, hydroplasm. The Christ avatars, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, exist in a state of liquid light. That's density 4. Density 5 is just pure light beings, pure radiation, pure waveform consciousness, dimensions 13 to 14 to 15. And these three orders are what we call the Brennau, are the three founders races that seeded life into our particular time matrix during the last seeding of life into our time matrix 950 billion years ago. That's 950 billion years ago. Forget this 13.7 billion. This is just the last of the greatest of the great cycles, the last outbreath of the Great Mother. And by the way, she's ready to take it back in again, let it mingle with herself, and another outbreath. This is the breathing rhythm of the cosmos. A very ancient word, angelic word for this is the Unisci. And it's interesting, have you noticed that a lot of light language channelers are beginning to sound very similar? There's a little Native American or First Nation, there's a little bit of Asian, Oriental languages, this and that. The reason for that is the first languages we're going to channel are the ones that are closest to us genetically. And when we talk about that, we're talking about Pleaidian, Sirian, Arcturian languages. We'll get more into that when we talk about the structure of consciousness a little bit later. And for what I'm going to unpack a lot in this next hour or 55 minutes, I actually have a timer here so I can really pace myself. But before I really get into it, I want to say thank you again to Neil, Portal to Ascension. I owe just about everything, and everything I'm going to share, to the Guardian Alliance, the Emerald Order, Melchizedek Cloister, Iesha, all my mentors, all my teachers, and again, a special shout out to the Portal of Ascension or the Portal to Ascension. Many people have found my work through this particular portal. And I just can't, my gratitude is just spilling over all the time. I'm really in the state these days of perpetual gratitude. These Brennau orders that Tricia McKenna actually invokes, she's had communication with the Brennau, I think, for many, 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 many decades, actually. Well, these Brennau orders visited humanity during different time periods. Why? In an attempt to keep the history of humanity's original creation contract and our intended evolutionary destiny alive within the Earth human races. And this original co-creation, co-evolution agreement made between these Brennau races, these founders races, in seeding our time matrix 950 billion years ago, was called the Emerald Covenant. The Emerald Covenant. And I will tell you, if you understand that L. Frank Baum, the author of the Wizard of Oz books, the original Wizard of Oz books, was a confirmed theosophist. Him and his wife joined the Ramayana Theosophical Society in 1892, 8 years before he wrote the Wizard of Oz. If you look at the Wizard of Oz through a theosophical metaphysical filter, I tell you, it's unbelievable the knowledge that's encoded in the Wizard of Oz. Now, this original Emerald Covenant, I'm starting with some broad strokes here. The original Emerald Covenant was made 950 billion years ago among these density 5, dimensions 13, 14, and 15, full light beings, the Brennau, the Rishi orders. And in this agreement, these Brennau orders agreed to create various founder and elder races Why? To seed life into all the density levels of our particular time matrix. And why? To create peaceful coevolution and ascension for all of their stellar races. Now, the Elohai Emerald Order, Brenau, they were appointed the original security team in our time matrix. And they were charged, just like we are charged, the original human race is created to be guardians, custodians of the planetary stargates, which allow access to the interdimensional stargates. They were charged with ensuring safe, egalitarian evolution of all life forms and in all the densities, and employing the natural laws of unified field physics, which is truly what the law of one is, or a big part of the law of one, to maintain the structural integrity of our time matrix. Now, these density 5 Brenau orders were directly involved with the creation of the original angelic human lineage. Of density 2, these are the angelic levels, the soul levels, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, on a planet that we know as Tara, a fifth dimensional version of Earth, 560 million years ago. 560 million years ago. Now, this Emerald Covenant has been restated several times in our history. It was restated 248,000 years ago. Actually, the most recent restatement of this Emerald Covenant is us, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But with restatement of this Emerald Covenant 248,000 years ago, the density 4, Lyran Anuhazi, and the densities 2 and 3, we're talking about angels and archangels, Sirian Azurites. These are from Sirius B, the blues, the Sirian blues. On behalf of these fifth density Brenau orders, these full light beings, these pure radiation of consciousness in dimensions 13, 14, and 15, presented a gift. I want to talk to you first about the source of all this information I'm going to share. Presented a gift to the Earth human guardian races that honored the Emerald Covenant. The gift was a massive library of information dealing with the history, the full history. Sorry, I got a cookie here. The full history of our time matrix. 950 billion years of history, creation physics, ascension mechanics, and the mechanics of operating the planetary and interplanetary Templar complex, which is the series of portals, stargates. Okay? And this gift, what was this gift? 12 small holographic recording discs that are called by many names. We know them as the Eternal Dora Torah, or the Cloister Dora Torah plates, or the CDT plates. Accompanying these CDT plates was a corresponding set of 12 larger discs called the Signet Shields, which were frequency generation devices through which the 12 primary stargates of the interplanetary Templar complex could be accessed. And we'll talk more about that pretty soon. This kind of stuff, the actual diagrams of the maps and keys, the locations of the interplanetary stargates and their access points on this planet. As well as serving as these were the devices held within the Ark of the Covenant, the rod and the staff, very powerful devices that could be used to gain Stargate access from the Earth. So while we're on the subject, let's talk about the Earth human race lines. But before we do that, I want to talk about how this information comes to us. The way it's communicated to us. It is in the larger scheme of things channeling, but it's not conventional channeling. It's called digital data or symbol code implantation. And it's an application of what we call cheilontic science. This communication process is called symbol code implantation. Now, take telepathic communication, for example. This is something we can all learn to do, and many of us are doing this. We're calling it channeling, but what it really is at its essence, or in its essence, is symbol code implantation. Now, telepathic communication, that's built upon the dynamics of what we call cheilontic science, particle mechanics, and the natural biopsychological or physiological faculties within the human body. But you see, telepathy differs from symbol code implantation in that telepathy normally involves direct live communication between individuals, whereas code transfer utilizes pre-recorded messages like emails, pre-recorded messages that are digitally programmed into symbol codes, which are then electrically implanted within the bioelectrical systems of the receiver. We heard a lot of that just before I came on. Once implanted, the symbol code message is stored within the cellular structure as minute electromagnetic light sound patterns. This is important to understand, which the receiver can activate by simply intent to access this biologically stored information. Now, the symbol codes are implanted within the consciousness, usually in the dream state, less frequently during physical encounters, but certainly during physical encounters. I've had a few of those. Most of my training and experience has been in the dream state. That's a very safe place for higher evolution to meet with us. All they have to do is lower their frequency to meet us in the dream state. And the dream state is a place we normally go during sleep anyway, various stages of sleep. We actually go into the lower mid-astrals. And by doing that, we are going into the future. What needs to be understood is that higher dimensional levels, higher dimensions actually represent future time coordinates. Okay? And upon returning to waking consciousness, the codes electrically engage within the body's central nervous system and are translated digitally into the cells for storage. So when the receiver, you, me, anybody that does the light language, desires to access the information, the simple thought to do so sends electrical chemical instructions to the cells, which direct them to activate the symbol code data. And in response to the subtle electrical command from the thought, the cells transfer the digital symbol data into the operational DNA strands, where it undergoes various translation processes, because this ultimately is a big factor in the DNA. A big function, major function of the DNA is to translate the information. This is why it's very, very important to clear all remaining karmic miasmic manifestations, because that will only serve to jumble and scramble the information coming through us. Then the data is turned into electrical impulses, again, that creates chemical hormonal responses in the body that are actually directed by the solar plexus. The solar plexus is in charge of this, that allow these recorded messages to enter the central nervous system, where it is then decoded by the natural sensory translation processes within the brain. It's a multi-phase biochemical electrical translation process. That's very important to understand when it comes to being able to not only access the information from higher evolution, from higher identities that exist in this all the different dimensions. I think of Bridget called the dimensionalized dimensions. Yes, absolutely. And the ability to translate them clearly and cleanly. Now, the Earth human race lines, star seeds, and more. The original human design itself is of extraterrestrial origin or angelic nature, in that the human race originally inhabited what we call the second density dimensions 4, 5, and 6 time fields of Earth. These are the soul angelic levels, pretty much rooted in the 5th dimension, where Earth is known as Torah. In the 8th dimension, Earth is known as Gaia. I know we reference Gaia as Earth, and it is Earth, but it's 8th dimensional version of Earth. Okay. The original Terran angelic original human is called the Turanusium. And I'll tell you, if you know Irish, Scottish, Gaelic, you realize that these old songs, Tururura, Turururalai, they're encoding vast fields of information, okay? Earth, and with the Turanusium, and Earth's humanity's stellar genetic heritage can be found in what we call the DNA substrand matrices. This is within the DNA. These are minute electrotonal or scalar standing wave templates that make up the blueprint for our human DNA. Now, in terms of the Earth human lineage, known to many of us as the Adam Kadmon or Adumi Kudmon, there were 7 root races, and 5 what they call cloister races were seeded. Each root race evolutionary cycle developed one of the first 5 strands of DNA within the 12-strand DNA template. Each of the cloister races, of which the indigos, most of us, if not all of us listening to this conference, carried within our DNA template the 7th through the 12th strands, the information of the 7th withheld within the 7th to the 12th DNA strands. And that corresponds to the higher dimensional density systems. Root race incarnates, they are the earth seeds. And the cloister race incarnates that carry the higher strand activation codes are the star seeds. And it is these cloister races that keep, and we still keep, the 12-strand DNA template potentials alive within the Earth human gene pool, and we represent the advanced stages of human evolution. The cloister race human 12-strand DNA template is known as the silicate matrix or the diamond sun DNA. And consciousness incarnating into the diamond sun cloister race biology here, we usually enter from the 10th through the 12th dimension. So our incarnational journey in this life, not from past lives. I think there's a little confusion in our movement, the difference between past lives and simultaneous incarnations. Now, when we come into third dimensional embodiment, normally 11 others come with us from a soul identity. 12 aspects of that soul identity, okay, come into our harmonic universe, into three-dimensional embodiment. Those 12 aspects of the soul identity or the angelic, they will themselves, they basically come through sets of interdimensional stargates, sets of black and white holes, and they manifest, they incarnate in different time-space coordinates within our three-dimensional universe. They are not our past lives, they are simultaneous incarnations which chose different time-space coordinates. Now, in terms of if we're the most recent, if we're the most present of those family of 12 in our incarnational soul family, we are the ones probably being channeled by our past lives. They are not necessarily our past lives, although we're getting a lot of incarnational bleed through and dimensional bleed through during this time cycle. And in many cases, what we assume to be past lives is information we're getting from members of our immediate solar incarnational family that have been placed or asked to be placed in different time-space coordinates within our dimensionalized systems. Okay? Now, and me personally, I do believe that I started this incarnational journey from the 11th dimension. A lot of us see 1111 on the clock, and I may talk about that a little bit later, but that's because we started this incarnational journey from 11th dimensional Lyra, which used to be known as Avion, which through semantic depletion and mistranslation has come to be known as Avalon. That's right, Avalon, Camelot. Now we've come, many of us, and I'm sure many of you, with me, with others, have come from the 11th dimensional Lyra. We've traveled through interdimensional stargates, various routes to get from there to here. And to get into incarnation, into fetal integration, you have to first come through the core of the earth, through the flamer halls of Amenti or the sphere of Amenti, and then through one of the 2 planetary stargates that relate to the interdimensional or 11th dimensional Lyran stargate, which is in the Vale of Pusey in England, where a lot of the crop circles are, to facilitate, most of them to facilitate travel through the Stargates, and a little island off the coast of Ireland called the Isle of Eye. And then we come into fetal integration with that first cell. Okay. Now, root race humans, now the root incarnations in root race biology enter usually from the third to the sixth dimensions. But the thing is, all root race humans have the potential, certainly now that enough of the waves of indigos in the Christ period, that larger agenda, I believe, was unsuccessful. But what the Yeshuas had done, when you come into incarnation on this planet, you leave an imprint of your DNA in the halls, the sphere, the flame of Amenti at the Earth's core, a massive stargate, a secondary stargate, but massive. That agenda of making it possible for all incoming incarnations to pick up that 12-strand pattern was not successful 2,000 years ago, but I think it is now. Because enough of us, cloister race, human incarnations, or indigos, whatever you want to call us, have been able to manifest on the planet, to incarnate on the planet, leaving imprints of our DNA at the Earth's core. So all incoming humans now have that same potential, that same ascension potential. Even all root race humans have the potential to receive genetic acceleration. Even the digressive races that have lost a lot of their DNA and ascension potential have the potential to receive genetic acceleration through bioregenesis technologies that will allow ultimately for the regeneration of the 12-strand DNA template. And you got to understand also that throughout the course of Earth human history, there has been lots of hybridization with various interstellar races, creating lots more varieties of star seeds among the Earth seed root race populations. Understand also that at various times in Earth human evolution, certain families of cloister race humans were further genetically enhanced through hybridization with the seed race out of which the original angelic Turanusium human lineage emerged. And the seed race of the human, our elder race, the seed race, our mothers were called the Oraphim. Now the Oraphim human seed race is itself a composite genetic code of Sirian Azurites from the second density, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, angelics, Lyran Sirian Anuhazi from density 3, dimensions 7, 8, and 9. These are oversouls, archangelics. The Elohai Emerald Order from the fourth density, dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And the founders race Melchizedek Cloister Brenaua from the fifth density, dimensions 13 and 14 and 15. Yes, the meek will inherit the earth. There is no direct translation into the English or the Hebrew or the Canaanite Aramaic of the word meek. The meek shall inherit the earth. Meek is an acronym. Meek, Meek, Melchizedek. That's right. Yes, the earth is our legacy. The earth is our inheritance. We are known. We're the incarnations of the last of the root races. Many of us, the sixth and seventh root races, the Melchizedeks, the Paradisians, names I can't even pronounce. Okay. Now the Emerald Order. The human cloister Oraphim, that many of us are hybrid. We're all hybrids. Is known as the Emerald Order Oraphim, and in contemporary times we are referred to as the Indigo Children. Now the DNA template of a true Emerald Order Oraphim is a 24 to 48 strand potential. There are very few of us on the planet. More are coming in now because now the planetary grids are able to sustain us. Even when we came in waves or individually, our blueprints were so expanded that they literally rocked the planet. Okay, that's what happens when high dimensional beings come in or are invoked in by sorcery, black magic, this and that. Now the DNA template allows for biological immortality and full biological transmutation out of the dimensionalized time matrix when fully activated. To become a fully embodied angelic, you only need 6 strands fully activated. Now, the Emerald Order Orifeme, that 24 to 48 strand DNA template, which contains within it the original 12 strand DNA template, is called the Emerald Sun DNA. If you have 12 to 24 strand potential, double diamond, 12 strand potential, diamond sun. And the Orifeme humans are known as the primary Grail lines. Yes, those carrying the Holy Grail or the DNA template design that can fully transmute out of matter and hold not just meta-terrestrial consciousness, ultra-terrestrial beyond time, ascended master consciousness in embodiment. Consciousness incarnating into an emerald sun, Orifeme biology, usually enters from a minimum of the 13th dimension. The primary Grail lines among the Earth humans entered into the Earth's gene pool about 800,000 years ago. Later became the lineage through which Yeshua Melchizedek's Christic family lines emerged following his birth. Many believe in 12 BC. The Emerald Sun Orifeme founder's genome accelerates the evolution of Earth human populations. The Emerald and Diamond Sun Orifeme and the Cloister race hybrid humans collectively represent the primary Grail lines, or Christic lines, within the Earth human populations. A secondary Grail line emerged within the Earth human populations about 248,000 years ago when we were given the Dora Torah plates. And by the way, all this knowledge comes from translations through speakers, through recognized, acknowledged speakers of this information. I've tried to get into the Vatican archives for years. I've given up now. I got to the door many years ago, but the fact is, I've seen underground libraries underneath monasteries in the Near East, Far East, that make your underground library. Greg Braden, I think others have shown photographs of these. They go on for miles and miles. They make the Vatican archives look like your neighborhood library. And generations after generations of monks scribes have been translating, retranslating the information from these Dora Torah plates. Now, a secondary Grail line emerged within Earth human populations about 248,000 years ago through hybridization with the Nephilim races. There's a lot to say about the Nephilim. I'm going to try to pack in as much as I can. The great thing is that you can watch this again and again and again and again. The Nephilim race is truly a hybrid race of cloister human from previous Earth seedings combined with the Sirian Anunnaki race strains. And the thing about the Nephilim race biology contains through the 9th through the 11th DNA strand template, okay, of what's called the Ruby order Nephilim Elohim. And the Nephilim Elohim 9 to 11 strand DNA template is called the Ruby Sun DNA. And that allows for biological transmutation into the etheric, pure etheric crystal, that's the oversoul, the archangelic, dimensions 7, 8, and 9, through to the pre-matter hydroplasmic forms of dimensions 9, 10, and 11. The Ruby Sun Nephilim Elohim human lineage later became the family lines of Pharaoh Akhenaten, the Mosaic family lines, and the Christic secondary Grail line of a being we've known as Yeshua Alhambra after his birth in 7 BC, the second Christ. More about that. Just so you know, you can pick up as much as you can from this talk and other talks I've given. The fact is, I do offer personal, private, one-on-one mentorships and small group mentorships. The openings are few and far between, but there are openings now. Please get in touch with me if you're interested in a private, personal, one-on-one or small group mentorship. You can email me at philgruber153@hotmail.com. philgruber153@hotmail.com if you're interested in a personal one-on-one mentorship.